brother. Welcome to Strictly for My D.I.G.G.A.Z, my dude.
Thank you, thank you. I'm honored.
How's it going out there in the Netherlands?
Sorry?
How's it going out there in the Netherlands?
It's pretty good. Like it was really warm, but now it's like cooling down. So that's like nice because yesterday I was doing a show and it was like hot as hell in there. So yeah.
Oh wow, wow, wow. So it's a different time zone. So we're like what? How many hours away? How many?
I'm 6 hours ahead of you if I'm correct because it's 10 in the evening here.
Oh wow, it's 10 at night. Oh, okay, definitely, definitely, definitely. So what's the vibe like out there? What's the hip hop scene like? Do they, what's the music like? The hip hop.
Well, in my town, it's like very small, but in the bigger city nearby, it's pretty good, and there's like plenty of room for like alternative music. Also, like genres like punk rock and metal and stuff like that. So yeah, there's just a place for everyone,
Right.
I guess.
So why do you think that the people overseas appreciate the real boom bap more than we appreciate it here in the States?
That's a good question, actually. Uh, well, I think the boom bap here is like also a bit of a niche because a lot of people who are a bit younger, like teenagers, they are like more into drill or trap, but there's always room for boom bap here, and there are like always uh, youngsters who are like still searching for that boom bap sound. Like I was like that too when I was 10. I just got into Tupac and Gangstar and like East Coast boom bap. So yeah, uh, there's like always room for it because I grew up with like the 50 Cent club music, but I wasn't like really feeling that back at the time. So there's like always people with taste for boom bap, and I think that's what's keeping the scene here alive and well.
Right, right, right. So I know you started off as I think as a DJ, right?
No, I actually started off as a producer and I started DJing later on.
You know, that's funny because most people are DJs first, then producers. So what made you go from producing, which I know you still do, to adding on DJ under your belt? Was that to be able to cut on records or?
Yeah. Because when I grew up, I just listened to a lot of Turkish rap music because I grew up with Turkish friends and also to Linkin Park, and they had the scratching in it. So like at a very young age, I got like intrigued by it. I think that's the correct word. So it was like really interesting. So there was like always this vision, but I preferred focusing on producing first, getting my craft like better with that, and then I started like into cutting and scratching when I was around 19, and back then it was like not on a good level, and I'm still learning, but I'm better with it now. So yeah, it's just the whole culture that's very inspiring.
Right. So now we know that hip hop is global now, but is it still important to people like you over in the States? Do you feel like to be official, you have to get accepted by the United States, like the artists in the States?
Well, I always thought that it was interesting to work with artists in the States and artists that speak English because you have like a worldwide audience. But there are enough artists here who are just strictly working with MCs who are rapping in Dutch or language, and they get their views, they get their respect, they get their radio plays here. So I think it's not necessary, but I preferred it myself.
Gotcha, gotcha. So what did you, when you first started making beats, what did you start using first?
I started using Fruity Loops and I still use it, but these days I also use Machine from time to time.
Okay, to using machines. So you started with Fruity Loops and now you use machines. So you went from software to like hardware.
Yeah, both. Like I'm still using Fruity Loops a lot, and the machine controller also can be plugged in into Fruity Loops. But sometimes like it's better to like chop it on the drum pad for the more organic feel.
Right, right, got you. Yeah, because I'm into banging on the pads, and I feel like I'm a part of the beat when I bang on the pads. I wasn't really big on just mouse clicking and all that. So
Yeah,
so the question I usually ask everybody: are you digging in the crates, or are you digging online, or are you doing a little bit of both?
both.
Okay.
Like digging in the crates is like really nice because you're like going out into a record store, but obviously it got a bit hard due to COVID because everything was closed, and around here there was some yeah situation which I call green light, red light. It was like everything was open and they closed it. It was open and they closed it. So it was like really hard, and I always was like also digging on the net because there are like really good sample channels on YouTube, but it's also important to dig in the crates because one record can have that one gem that you are searching for.
Right. So like when sampling, are the sample police heavy over there? Or can you get away with sampling and not having to clear it over there?
I can get away with it, but I'm like not really a big artist. Like I don't have millions of views, and most of the music that I sample, I just put it out for free, and that's also because of sample police. And then I can show like, hey, I don't make any profit from it,
Right.
because most of my music on Spotify is completely self composed. So yeah. So I defo watch out for it a bit.
Yeah. Because that's really big over here. But I know, like being the underground boom bap, you can kind of fall through the cracks and slip through the cracks because we're not selling
True.
millions of records and we're not on the radio or whatever and things like that. So we're working with software and hardware. You feel the combination of the two makes it a bit easier than just using software or just using hardware?
Yeah. Like it gives it more organic feel when you're just pushing the pads, like I mentioned before.
Right.
Uh, yeah, and like only software it works, but like you said, just the clicking, it sometimes it just isn't it. Like especially when you're chopping up a sample, it's so much better to like chop it up on the drum pad and like have it layered out over those 16
So
pads.
when you're chopping, are you chopping manually, like pulling the record back, or getting it, or are you letting it auto chop, taking a sample and letting the sample just the software chop for you?
I chop it manually, but I just record a part of the sample and then I just chop it up into pieces with the drum machine, so I don't have to like go back with a record needle if I sample from a record.
Right. Because I notice now what I like when I sample, I like to use that in YouTube, the MP3 program, where sample
Yeah,
the whole record in, and I can just chop through the whole record instead of constantly, especially when you use vinyl, you have to pull it back and things like
true.
that. So when I chop online, I like to, when I sample and get samples offline, I myself like to put it in that YouTube MP3 and chop through the whole record. Is that something you do as well?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty dope. So the process of when you come making the beats, are you start with drums first or samples first? What do you prefer?
Sample or melody first, and then I just find like fitting drums.
Mhm. And the drums, are they coming off vinyl or offline or sample packs? Where are you getting these from?
Most of my drums are from sample packs,
Mhm.
and I created a sample pack myself a couple of years ago, and that was like from drum breaks, online drum breaks that I found on records. So that was like made from like everywhere where I can find something useful. But Most of the time I use drums that are like one shots, and then I just combine them and blend them together. And sometimes I just chop up drum breaks because that also works, because a lot of one shot drums sometimes they just sound too clean, you know,
Right,
like
right. Especially if you're not a drummer. You know,
yeah,
I've been finding that as well. Like, it's good to just sometimes find these ill like drum patterns or drum loops that have that rhythm instead of that boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? It gets too plain after a while. I'm not a
yeah.
drummer, you know. Yeah. I was just gonna, that's what I was gonna ask you. Are you opposed to looping up a drum loop or a drum break?
Uh, I think sometimes it can add value, but personally, I prefer to like chop that drum break up and just create my own new pattern with
Mhm.
it. But I definitely use like drum breaks in some beats. But I've made like thousands of beats, I guess, and the ones that I used drum breaks in, like just the raw breaks, I think those are like 10 beats,
Ah,
because I definitely prefer chopping it up and like creating my own pattern with it.
right. So you also put out sample packs for other producers to use?
Uh, well, I made one drum kit and it's free to download, so it's not that I'm like selling sample packs or drum kits, but maybe that's an idea for the future.
So what do you think makes a good drum kit?
I think diversity, like even in boom bap, that you have like some snares that are like dusty and snares that are like higher, and not only like dusty snares or snares with a more high pitched sound. So I think if you have like a drum kit or sound pack or whatever you want to call it, with a lot of sounds to pick from that actually sound different, yeah, then you have like a good drum kit.
Right. Now, when it comes to bass lines, do you sample your bass line for like a bass note and put it in like 16 levels? Or are you actually, using the keyboard and playing out your bass line? Or,
Yeah.
or do you feel every beat has to have a bass line?
That's an interesting question. Sometimes I think, especially when it comes to sampling, that a sample can have a really strong bass line and it's like sitting in there already. And then I just thicken it out sometimes, and sometimes I don't even change it and I just bang drums on it, and that's the beat. Uh, and in other cases where the bass is like really low or there isn't a bass in there, I just use plugins to create a base.
Right. Now, do you ever, you find like, say you find like a loop, right? You say it has a
Yeah,
bass in it. Would you sample it twice and filter that sample out and put it under the main sample to bring that out? Does that usually?
definitely, definitely. That
Yeah.
can like definitely work depending on the sample, of course.
Mhm.
But I use that method also. Yeah.
Right. So when you're going out digging, whether it's online or in the crates, do you have a genre, a favorite genre that you dig for, or are you all over the place?
I'm all over the place. Like I try to be versatile with the digging. That's also what I love about the whole culture. That you can sample anything. Like you can sample from soul to black metal and like still make a banging beat out of it. So I try not to be picky, but I'm like also into like uh, graphical art. So the thing is, if the artwork is like on point and really speaking to me, yeah, then I'm like digging for that record. So that's also why I always say, like, when you're like pushing a record or like creating an album or EP, uh, artwork definitely is important to it.
Right. So do you find it's easier to dig in the record store to find records or online? So when you go online, what do? You type in a genre?
Yeah, I type in a genre or I follow specific channels that put
Mhm.
on like different types of genres, but sometimes I just type in, for example, Japanese jazz, and then I just go searching until I find something dope. Also, looking for the views if it has a a lot of views and it sounds dope, I'm like a bit like nah, because most of the time there's like uh somebody will have sampled it.
Right.
So I'm like looking for the hidden gems, or I try to look for them.
Yeah, because I notice like whenever I deal with samples, I find that it's harder for me to sample online because it's like a lot of times I don't know what I'm looking for. Like with sampling, out sampling and going out digging. Oh, what's this?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, this looks fun. I don't know what I'm looking for. A lot of times I'm seeing the cover and I'm just flipping through oh, this looks interesting, versus me typing in just a random genre. I find like to find the samples easier when I'm digging in the crates, but I
yeah,
think it's
facts.
just you just have economically, you know, and for space wise, because I don't have a lot of space to keep all those records.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
it easier to dig online. Now, do you have that problem? Do you have a lot of space for records, or is
yeah. No, no, no.
right?
I don't have a lot of space. Like I literally have like records here sitting next to me between like a like a desk. So the records are like a bit everywhere. But yeah, space is definitely a problem.
Right, right, right. So when you do go out digging, um, is there a specific year that you look for when digging?
Uh,
What's your
Not
favorite?
exactly, I if I had to pick a year, I would say like early 60s to late 80s.
Okay, okay. Late 60s, late 80s. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. So you're
So that's still like a lot of time. It's like I'm talking about 30 years. But yeah, like new stuff, maybe I also try to avoid it because it get caught a bit earlier by the sample
right.
police, or like YouTube, that they give you a strike if you bring the song on there. So yeah, like 60s, 70s, 80s, that's cool.
Yeah. You know what? There's a trick that another beat maker slash producer I interviewed told me what he does. He'll go digging, or he'll go like, let's say to like Goodwill. He'll
Yeah.
take a picture of the record and then look it up on YouTube and see if he can find it without having to spend for it just yet. Because a lot of times we can dig, buy these records, and there's nothing on it. There's nothing on it.
That can work.
Right, right. You
That's
see,
a good trick. Yeah.
right, 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 right. So how often is it when you go out and you dig in the crates that you don't find anything, or do you just try to make something work?
Yeah, well, when I dig in the crates, I just dig in like the euro crates. So
Mhm.
you have to pay €1, let's say $1 for a record. So it's not really a loss. Like you come back with 5 records for €5 or $5, and then yeah, the worst thing that can happen is that I wasted $5. Yeah, and
Right, right, right.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
thankfully I can miss those $5. So yeah.
Right, right, right. So what you would say you're a quote unquote, would you say a dollar crate digger when you're digging in the
Ye-
crates?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because me myself, I don't like to spend a whole lot on records. I really don't. I like to bring like $20 or €20 in your case, and just find 20 good records. You know what I mean? Now, how often do you dig for like? Do you have the little small 45s? You have a lot of those out there?
Yeah, they're like a bit rare here.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I don't like to dig for singles. I like to dig for albums so that you have
Yeah,
a selection to go through the whole record instead of just buying a 45, unless I know exactly what I'm looking for.
facts.
Yeah, yeah. So next, like your BPMs, do you stick within a certain range?
Uh, yeah. Most of the time I stick from uh 80 BPM to let's say 96, but sometimes I go above or below because I made one beat. I think it's like a 110 BPM. It's like a really
Under
fast
when?
one. Yeah,
Under how much?
110.
Ooh, what you doing? House music?
No. It's it was like for a really fast hip hop song. So
Oh
I
wow.
think it's 100, 105, 110 maybe. And the slowest one that I made off the top of my head, it will be like around uh 75, I guess.
Right, right, right. Wow.
And that can still work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That can definitely still work. So, like, you're making a beat and you're sampling. Do you ever feel like the sample may not have enough and that you feel you need to play live instrumentation over it? Do you do that as well? Or is it
Yeah,
just straight
yeah, yeah.
samples?
Sometimes I do that, but it's only when the sample is not too busy, like
Mhm.
not a lot of yeah music going on there. If it's for example one organ or one guitar, yeah, then you can like add extra instrumentation. But if it's already a whole orchestra in there, then I just leave it and just bang drums on it and a bass line, and that's the beat.
All right. So when you add instrumentation over the sample, are you sampling yourself playing it or are you just playing it over the sample?
Both. Like sometimes I play it in Fruity Loops with a VST, like a plug-in. Sometimes I just pick up my guitar and just play a few chords to add it. So yeah, there's a lot of ways. Sometimes I just play in like a synth and then sample my own synth. So they're like unlimited options, I guess.
Now, do you feel like when you sample yourself playing that sample with you sampling yourself, it gives you more options than playing it just live? Like it
Yeah,
seems like you can do a lot more with the sample sound because you can play yourself and chop up your your instrumentation. So
yeah, fact.
and I think you can make it match the sample because a lot of times like you can have a sample and then try to play over it, it just doesn't sonically mesh right because
Mm.
it's too clean and you got this dirty sample. So I always feel like if you sample yourself, you can do a lot more. And how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely also like you gotta apply the right filters and effects to it when you play your own stuff. Because I had beats that are self-composed, and people told me like, "Yo, that's a dope sample," and then I just told them like, "Yeah, I played it myself, all on a like digital work space, Fruity Loops with the plugin." So there's like definitely tricks uh, for like making your sound more sampled. But if I can share a few tricks, one good one is if you're like playing the guitar, just put a microphone in front of the guitar because it gives that gap between the guitar and the microphone, and yeah, that can like create some kind of sample uh, effect. Like instead of putting the guitar cable into your audio workstation and just play it from there.
Right, right, right. And so so not only do you sample, but you say so you play instruments. So how many instruments do you play?
I play guitar. Like I started playing guitar when I was 10, so at a very young age. Then I stopped with it and I picked it up again when I was 15, and I was done with middle school. So I had a very long summer and I just started playing guitar. I think a few years ago, one of my friends gave me this thing that I could uh, record my guitar with, like this sound interface. That's the word. And then I was like, hey, I can just play guitar and make beats with it. So that was like really a moment where I started like playing more guitar and digging into different genres. So I could like play like rock, but also jazz and neo soul. So yeah.
Oh
Uh,
wow, 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 versatile. So how many beats would you say that you make in a day?
how many in a day? Well, it depends. Like, let's see, this uh, month we have like 19 days. It's the 19th of June, and I think I have 19 beats down.
Right.
So that's an average of one a day. But today I made two, and early June I made like not much because I was also working on my studies. So it's just when I have time, I try to make as much as possible. But yeah, I don't wake up with it feeling like, yeah, and today I will make beats like all day. Like I always like try to combine it with different activities, because otherwise I feel the inspiration also might run out.
Right. True indeed. True indeed. Because I know when I first started making beats, I'm banging out a bunch of beats all day. But as I started learning
Yeah,
into the technique, it's like I'm happy to make one or two solid joints. You know, because a lot of times we can make a whole bunch of beats, but how many of them are really quality beats? You know?
true.
Right. So how do you combat beat block? You know, you're digging through the crates, you're digging online, you're trying to put something together and it's just not coming together. I mean, what is your remedy for that?
Uh, well, most of the time I find out like really early in the process. Like I'm not too picky uh, when it comes to creating, because the samples that I search for, they're already selected. So I know that most of the time they will work with my sound, and I can hear the drums on it already. But sometimes it just doesn't work, and then early in the process I find out. Because what's a tip for upcoming producers who are just beginning? When you're sampling something and you're unsure if it's working, use a metronome, because
Right.
then you have to count like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can hear like, oh, this is off, and then maybe you gotta use another sample. That's how I personally work.
Wow. Definitely. So when it comes to selling beats, right?
Yeah.
And you reach out to these artists and just trying to get in the game, do you feel you have to give out free beats in order to get your name out there?
Yeah, I'm still giving out a lot of free beats because I'm like pretty simple. Like if I'm digging someone and I want to work with that person, then I'm not trying to sell that person beats. But sometimes someone hits me up and says like, "Hey, what's your price?" So I have this catalog on SoundCloud with beats for sale. But honestly, I'm like more into building with people on respect base. But I also like do sell beats. When I was a teenager, I was like totally against it. But now I'm like a bigger name compared to who I was back then.
Mhm.
So yeah, now I just can't like give everyone free beats, because sometimes my whole inbox is like blowing up, and like it's a privilege that I can like pick uh like specific artists and work with them. But I have like certain teams that I work with, and certain artists that I work with a lot. And also for my albums, I'm trying to be picky with who I work with.
Right. So you're saying if it's someone you want to work with, you're giving them free beats.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, do you feel like you have to give the American artists free beats to get on? Or as your name grows, you start charging?
Uh, yeah, I think that last one, it really depends on who's asking me and how they are approaching me. Like sometimes, like I said, people just ask me like, "Hey, what's your price?" And then I would be like stupid if I gave them free beats. Like sometimes uh, but I like put in a lot of work. So yeah, it's like nice to make a sale sometimes. But like I said, working on mutual respect is also nice.
Right.
And if I'm feeling this artist and thinking like, hey, we can like grow together and like make an EP or or an album, then I'm not going to charge for a beat.
Now, is that how it came? That G-Fam Black project came together?
Yeah, like I got on GFAM's radar pretty early, like when he started banging out tracks, because I also run a blog, and he had a track with someone called Rated R. He's an MC from New York, and I worked with him like from way back, like when I was 18, 19, and he approached me like, hey, can you like put this song on your the platform, on your blog?
Right.
And I posted there, and I think GFAM approached me, or I sent him a friend request and approached him like, hey, your song is on my platform. And that's how it started, because he noticed that I also made beats, and he approached me, or I tried to send him something. Like, honestly, I don't even know how it went down. And yeah, now we're like, I think we have 5 EPs out.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I heard a few of them. They're pretty dope. That's why I reached out to you. I was like, oh, okay,
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I got to talk to this guy or whatever. You know what I mean? And salute you and things like that. So who else is on your radar that you want to work with?
Like artists that I'm like not working with currently.
Yeah, who would you like to work with next? Anybody?
Flea Lord would be like really dope.
Who's that?
Flea Lord.
Ah, Flea Lord. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
Flea
that
Lord.
would be dope. Like, sometimes I just show some beats to people or friends, and they're like, hey, you should get like Flea Lord on this. But like, I know he's like working with the best in the
Right.
game, but maybe I will try to reach out someday,
So
because it
someone,
would be really dope.
all right, so someone in his status, so these artists in the States, do they feel like they should get the beats free because you have no name?
Uh, I honestly wouldn't even know, because I've never been in that situation where I try to charge someone, and that's a bigger name.
Right,
Because if it's a bigger name, I see it also as a step up for myself.
right,
So like, I'm not too much into grabbing money from beats, because I also make artwork for people, and I also engineer songs for people,
right.
and that's where I get money from, because it's something that I'm not involved in. So it's easier to say like, hey, I charge. But yeah, if a big artist approached me, and some bigger artists like came to me for beats, then try to try to send them something, and don't worry about the money, because
Right,
it's like a level up for me.
right. So would you say in this game that you just it's really hard to survive off of just being a sample-based beat maker? You have to do other things outside of making beats to make money?
Uh, nah, not exactly. Like, personally, I just like creativity. Like, I'm also like working on videos, and I'm like a graduated video maker. So yeah, I just like creativity, and I just like working with Photoshop also, and
Gotcha.
creating art in there. So
Right.
uh, yeah, it's just how I work. But there's like definitely coin in it if you want to sell sample beats.
So basically with the beats, this is just strictly you just making beats for the love.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like passion. It's really deep passion, because it also like helped me during some darker days. So yeah, it's like, it just makes me happy to make music. That's how simple it is.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. It's not all about the money. It's about the passion for it first, and you find
Like,
other ways to make money to support yourself. But this is the love right here. You know what I mean? Definitely what I like. So are you going to be dropping any more instrumental albums, any more collaboration albums? Do we have anything in the works?
definitely. Like, I have a lot of EPs in the works. I got one coming next Friday, which is an instrumental EP. So it's a solo work with myself on the beats, guitars, keys. So sadly, no samples in that one because everything is self composed, and
Right,
because of that, it's like also on Spotify and Tidal, and these are like everywhere.
right.
And I got this EP going on with this Dutch rapper Bleach. He's really dope, and
Right.
he raps in English, so it's also like something to check for the audience worldwide.
And are those
Yeah, and I got like a lot of EPs going on, a lot of tracks. So yeah, for all the listeners, just keep your eyes and ears
and all of
open, and
that
you
is
will
free?
find it.
And all of that is free?
Uh, Yeah, well, about the EP with Bleach, I can't tell too much because we haven't discussed it if we want to put it out for free.
Right.
Uh, my instrumental EP, I haven't decided either. I think it's going to be free to download, but it's definitely free to stream on Spotify. So there's like always a way to listen to it for free, even if you just download a Spotify trial or just bump it on YouTube. So yeah,
So like the EPs you did with G Fan Black, you gave him the beats for free, correct? And,
yeah,
and
definitely.
so is he, so basically do you see any residuals from that, or is that just him that just he can sell it and do what he wants with it?
No, like GFM, he's like a real honest dude. Like we always split profit. So
Right,
and
right.
that always goes well. He's a real one. So yeah,
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So you would prefer instead of selling beats, give the artist and just do splits?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
like I said before, if I feel this artist and I uh, think that I can grow with them, uh, then yeah, I'm not too worried about money. But if someone hits me up like, "Yo, what's your price?" then I will just simply give him a price. Like I'm not robbing my own pocket.
Now, would you sell somebody a beat that you didn't like musically? Like you're just not feeling them?
Uh, Yeah, yeah. Like if this person likes it and this person want to pay for it and they want to put it on their album or drop a single with it, that's the thing with music. It's like everyone has its own perspective on it. So yeah, like maybe I create something that I don't like, or after all, I don't like it after a while, and another person loves it. So that's also the beauty about music and about art overall. I think.
Right, right, gotcha. Because yeah, I've asked a few producers the same question, like, okay, well, if a guy reaches out to you for some beats, and it could be a guy in the underground that everybody likes, but you're just not really into him. Because I don't care what anybody says. Everybody that's out right now that's hot or dope and that's considered dope and underground, you're not gonna feel everybody. Some people
True,
are
true.
like, he's all right. I don't see why everybody likes him like that, and he's all right. But if he comes to you for a beat, I always ask, would you sell this person the beat? Or would you be like, nah, I'm not really feeling your style, I'm not really into you. No, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I would like definitely sell this person the beat, or I have to
Mhm.
think that the music is like really horrible,
Right.
or their content isn't matching
Mhm.
with what I want to hear. Like for example, drill rap. I don't produce drill beats, but I do think that drill rap is like really violent, and they are like uh, saying stuff about targeting specific people.
Right.
And personally, I'm against that.
Right.
And I do like hardcore hip hop, and I know that there's also some sort of aggression in hardcore hip hop, but it's different. It's
Mhm.
unless it's a diss track, and that's also a totally different kind of song. It's not specific aimed against
Mhm.
one person and wanting to do harm upon that person.
Right,
So
right,
yeah, for example, that's something that I'm against with. So like if an artist is like too aggressive in that way, I might not sell them the beats because I've my own values.
right. Even though, so you're saying that even though they're a boom bap artist that everybody's feeling on the underground. I'm not even talking about drill music. I'm talking about the lane that we do, the boom bap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and it's not really what you're into. His music, you would just like no, correct?
Yeah, well, I I think that like my personal values and my opinions are like not for sale. So
Right,
if an artist is really pushing out music that I don't feel, that's good for them and keep doing it. Like I'm not trying to censor anyone, but if I don't feel it, then I don't feel it. And art is like really subjective. Yeah, and then I don't like sell them at a beat, and I just like used drill rap for example because that's a genre that I don't feel.
right,
But yeah,
right,
some boom bap artists I don't feel them as well. Like I can't name a few from the top of my
right,
head,
right,
but yeah, if I feel you, I feel you. If I don't feel you, I don't feel you. That's how it works.
right. So when it comes to like sending beats to these artists, right? And not even just send, well, let me rephrase that. Do you prefer to work in the studio with the artist or do you prefer to just to send beats? Do your thing in the studio or in your lab and just send out beats?
It really it depends because like I'm here in Europe and a lot of artists that I work with they're like in the States or in Canada or in different parts of Europe or Asia even. So yeah, I can't be in the studio with them, but with my hometown friends that I make music with, I definitely prefer to like be in the studio with them. So if the possibility is there, then yes,
Right,
then I prefer like being in the studio. Yeah,
right. So like with G Fan Black, y'all did like 5 EPs, and I'm sure I know he wasn't in the studio with you because you're in the Netherlands and he's.
yeah, yeah.
Do you think the project would even came out even doper if y'all was side by side? Because I know you know when you make beats, you're not just making beats, but you have input. You know
Mm,
how you want how he should say it, when he should come in. You know, even the beat, you may say, hey, this beat sounds like it could be a song about females or a song about a storytelling beat. You know, do you
yeah.
feel that because you don't work with these artists side by side that your input the lack of input can make the music sometimes suffer?
Nah, like not at all because there's like always ways to communicate and GFM, for example, is like really good in like communicating things with me, and he always says like, "Hey, this track is going to be about that," so he gives me input in there as well, and also from my side, I try to send him beats that he will uh, feel. So like yeah, we're like working like a well-oiled machine, so to speak. So yeah, I don't have that problem a lot because there's like always communication going on through Instagram or through Facebook, and that's not only with GFM but basically with everyone that I work with. And yeah, honestly, when I sell a beat, I don't stress about it. But if you uh, build a project with an artist, that communication gotta be there, and that communication will always be there. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Now,
So I don't think that it will suffer if I'm not in the studio with them to answer your question directly.
right, right. Now, do you mix your own beats or do you have an engineer that you work with?
I mix my own beats.
Mhm.
Like I try to do everything myself. Like not rapping, but everything besides that rapping, like mixing, mastering, not only of the beats but also of the songs and the artwork. I try to do it myself most of the times. Yeah.
Got you, got you, got you. So how do you know when a project is done or a song is done after mixing it? How do you know, or how do you know you're not overproducing a beat? Is it I mean, how do you know when it's time to pull back? Like, okay, this is done.
Uh, I think when it's getting too much and when you're feeling like you can't put in like more elements. Uh, if you used all your elements, like for example, if I banged out a beat and I'm like, hey, I could like use some crash drums on the hook as the final touch, as the cherry on the pie, so to speak. And sometimes it doesn't work, and then I'm like, yo, let's call it a beat. It's done now. Uh, so yeah, most
Right,
of the time it's when these little extra elements don't work,
right,
then it's time to wrap it up.
right. Because if you have you noticed, like it's like the minimalist beats are winning today. You know,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
it's that they're really winning. You know, thanks to like Rock Marciano, West
Yeah,
Side Gun, they've brought back that minimalist, and I think it allows the artist, it leaves room for the artist to rhyme and do their part. Has an artist ever said like, "Yo, it's too much in the beat" to you? Has they ever said, "Wait, that's too
yeah,
much.
yeah,
I can't get in the pocket. Could you take that out?" Or, you know, or you
definitely,
right,
definitely.
right,
And like that's always an like an interesting case because I don't do drumless beats. I have respect for people that do it, but I always love banging drums on a sample or on a melody. So it's just not really my style, and I'm down to remove the hi hats, and I'm down to like tune down the snare a little less volume wise, but I'm not the type of producer that's like, hey, I just looped this sample and here you go, just rhyme over it. I have like this feeling that I have to add something to it.
gotcha.
And again, I deeply respect people who do otherwise. But yeah, for me, I just love adding drums to samples. So yeah.
Right, 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 right. And that's dope. That's dope. You know, because like I said, you know, with the drums, it just gives it a nice bang. You know, I like drumless music too. I've done that as well. But outside of the drums, you got the drum rocking, the sample rocking, and you have all these elements that you've added to the beat. You know, how do you know when to leave room, or if it's crowded, too crowded for the artist to rhyme to? Because you know, sometimes you can have so many elements and it's like there's
Yeah.
no room for the MC. You know, have you
Mhm.
beats like that where you've had to take out certain elements?
Definitely, definitely. Like one beat that already popped to mind was a beat, and the MC told me like, "Yo, these drums are like too much System of a Down, like almost like metal kind of uh drumming." And I'm like not speaking about the aggression of the drums, but more like the fills in it. Like there was like a lot going on, like a lot of drum riffs, and
Right,
I had to like take him out because uh, that's always interesting because sometimes I'm like, yo, this is dope. This is like
right,
super original, and it sounds like a pretty decent drummer drummed it in, but then it's too
right,
much, and then I gotta realize like, hey, I'm making this beat for someone, so I have to make it work.
right. Now, has there ever been a time where you had to stand your ground and be like, listen, this is what it is. I'm not changing anything because in your mind, this is just really, really dope, and you can just give it to someone else. Have you ever had that?
Uh, Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then we come back to the drumless topic. Like I had a couple of times where an MC wanted the beat completely drumless, and I'm like, yeah, sorry, but that's like not gonna work. Then I'm not your guy to produce this
Right,
uh record. But thankfully, most of the time, like yeah, people are like, okay, just tune the drums down a bit, and like we're like always finding a middle way.
right,
But that's also why I do a lot of instrumental projects, because I can like do my own thing there. I can like create whatever I want to create. I'm the only artist involved. So yeah, that's why I also love like instrumental music.
Right. Definitely. Well, Skinny Bones, the Godfather, I want to thank you for taking the time to chop it up with me on Strictly for My Diggers. You know, I do this platform for all the beat makers out there, you know, and I just want to give you your flowers, you know,
Thank you.
while you're here now. You know, like I said, a lot of us as beat makers, we don't get the credit that we're supposed to. So my goal is to, you know, put the producer on the same level of the artist so so people can match, you know, a face with the name, you know, and things like that. So when people see you out, they know Skinny Bones, the Godfather. He produced that EP for G-Fan Black. So don't be surprised if people run up on you now after seeing this and hearing the G-Fan Black project, like, oh, you the guy that produced that, you know, because we got to give us ourselves some props, you know.
Yeah.
We got to give ourselves some props and not be counted out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. And to add something to that, like to like all the graphical designers out there who make the artwork, just put a producer on there, even if it's a bit smaller, like
Right.
produced by and then the
Right.
producer's name, but just involve them in the artwork, and artists involve them in the track title or in the credits. It really helps us out.
Absolutely. Because that's one of my pet peeves too. I'll see a video and it'll be directed by so and so, but I want to know who made the track as well. You know, I think that's the thing that gets left out. Or a song will come out, a video, you know, or whatever, and the producer's name is left out. Give the drummer some, as James Brown would say. You know.
Yeah.
You know, we want to be heard. We want more work. You know, so when people see, oh, he did that, ooh, okay, let me reach out to him or whatever. So, you know, that's what this whole platform is for, to give, you know, beat makers their props, to give these beat makers an opportunity to speak their piece, to speak their mind, to talk about their likes, their dislikes, their frustrations, you know, that they have. Because we have a lot of frustrations, you know, we get tired of giving beats and these artists sit on the beats for years, months, and days.
Yeah, I know all about it, yeah.
You know, yeah, definitely. So, you know, I just want to salute you, and I just want to thank you for being on Strictly for My Diggers Season 3, will be coming soon, and probably in August.
Dope. Thanks for having me, and just keep doing this, because it's a really dope platform, and you have some like legendary producers like Vanderslice on there. So just keep it up, and there are like a lot of dope producers out there, and thanks for finding me, and thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, no problem, man. Peace.
I'm gonna tell you now, I ain't no holy individual, but I am righteous. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna steal from you, I'm not gonna cheat you. I'm gonna tell you the truth, whether you like it or not.